Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. William Ruto became the president, and I'm so keen saying became the president, and the breakthrough came from Mount Kenya. And while successfully, it was crafted as a relationship with the common man, the hustler, while the billionaires and the money men from the mountain was supporting Raila Odinga. But as the presidency sets in, the number of issues that must emerge. And of course, William Ruto has realized that you cannot wish away a relationship with Mount Kenya billionaires. And I want to call them Mount Kenya founders. The club of founders are the engineers of the domestic economy. And the people who do that analysis say that Mount Kenya constitutes a bigger percentage of our GDP. There is no denial about that. So recently, President William Ruto met with Richard Ngatia, who is the chairman of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce. And the State House meeting really caused reactions from different political quarters. 2 days after the State House meeting, William Ruto again, Richard Ngatia attended an event by Kenya Revenue Authority. It was KRA Day that was also graced by William Ruto. And for the last 1 week, of course, political observers are seeing William Ruto becoming cozy or close with Richard Ngatia. So what is the mission of Ngatia around William Ruto? Or what is the mission of William Ruto? The new mission with Ngatia. Apart from what can be seen as a work relationship, but there people need to know that according to it's called World Forum Charter, One World Federation of Chambers. The president is actually the de facto patron of Kenya National Chamber of Commerce. So that's a relationship that they have a work relationship because Ngatia is the chairman, and of course he's William Ruto is the patron. But let me just remind you a bit about where Richard Ngatia is a person of interest, or why the relationship is causing jitters from different political quarters. He was last minute hounded, bungled out of Nairobi gubernatorial race and replaced by the person I call political greenhorn, that is the Jubilee governor candidate who faced off with Sakaja. And what exactly came out? I believe that to date that was a big blunder for President William Ruto, or President Uhuru, former President Uhuru Kenyatta, to leave out Richard Ngatia and not even go for another candidate. And to date, I believe it was a mistake for former President Uhuru Kenyatta to leave Ngatia and Tim Wanyonyi and pick Igabe for Nairobi gubernatorial race. So Ngatia is not a man, or rather is not the kind of a leader you can wish away when you see his name being thrown in the political spanner. So to this, just with that background, and of course it was understood that perhaps it was on competence or so, but in the last general election, there were two interests for the Mount Kenya Foundation, rather the Mount Kenya Billionaires Club. One was the presidency, and I can tell you that as much as people normally look at Uhuru never brought, what Raila got, support that Raila got from Mount Kenya billionaires, that came under the patronage of President Uhuru Kenyatta. So they invested at the presidency and Nairobi gubernatorial race, where also I want to believe maybe Polycarp Igathe was brought in under the influence of Mount Kenya billionaires. So this meeting has been creating reactions, and I want us to advance this a bit. And they also want to create another dynamic, another parallel that and then it brings in the fold. Richard Ngatia is believed to be representing young tycoons, young founders, while the others that were also active in the last political campaign were the old tycoons. That seems to be, that's the diagonal that is also coming here, that he's not just representing Mount Kenya founders, but he's also representing the young founders. So let's advance. What could it be? And someone would ask, if they're regrouping, so what would be the interest of William Ruto to bother people who, at the campaign trail, he said could not decide the fate of Kenyans? I've just explained to you why. It's not enough to win the votes of the common man to run government and say, I'm comfortable. You also need the support and the blessings of the big boys. And for some obvious reasons, maybe you'll have to find out here. Now, when people participate in elections, or rather foundations or groups participate in election, even if you don't win, but you'll get the audience. The fact that Mount Kenya billionaires supported Raila Odinga, even if Raila did not become president, but they got the ear, they got the attention of the government of the day. They will always ask, what's their interest, of course? William Ruto will always go behind the curtain and ask, what was their interest, and how about their future? These are all things that will always come to play. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, and also like our video. Thank you very much for those who've been supporting. And should I mention your coffee? Yeah, Santa. Yeah, got some 3K from Nancy Waruinge. Yes, Nancy Waruinge. Santa sana. Now, I want to tell you one thing. Whose interest is Ngatia pursuing? And there is one direct theory. William Ruto might use Ngatia to scuttle Mount Kenya force in Nairobi, or better still, to checkmate Sakaja. I am saying that because in the last general election, the interest of the Mount Kenya founders, the billionaires, were actually in Nairobi and at the presidency. So, Sakaja recently have shown signs of working with Raila. We've seen out of his cabinet, he has appointed Azimio MPs, Azimio leaders, the son of Fred Gumo. But I just support Sakaja because you also need to, you need to know people who own Nairobi. Fred Gumo is a very big tycoon here in Nairobi, especially Westlands. That Westland side becoming a Konga Yao. There was the daughter of J.M. Karaoke, who was a very close ally of Raila and used to work at Orange House, and some other close Raila allies. And so, William Ruto could still bring Ngatia around to scuttle any other force, or rather to manage checkmate Sakaja. And by William Ruto bringing Ngatia around, Sakaja would easily get worried that, okay, because Ngatia was in the race next time, how about if he's close to the boss and he also wants to be in the race? This is something that will be some warning shot to Sakaja. Secondly, and this two tie up, that Ngatia could also be Uhuru's special envoy in Ruto government to check on Ruto's revisit schemes. There is a lot of revisit. I've always maintained that some of these decisions that are being touted as political decisions to do better the life of Kenyans and so, some of them have just been done to attack other people's businesses. And of course, for me, that has been my position. That not everything that was done in good faith. But here is my position, that Ruto is targeting Mount Kenya Billionaires Club. He's targeting them and he's seeking a lot of attention from them. And this is why I want to tell you this. The Mount Kenya financiers are biggest political shakers in this country. And Ruto, having been in the government for the last 30 years, knows very well. He was in active politics during the 2002 transition. He was in active politics in the 2007, in the 2013 transition, and now in this transition. And there is one thing that himself he can understand better than any other politician around Kenya Kwanza, be it Mudavadi, be it Geshagwa. Ruto understands what a deep state will be and the shakers and makers of a government. Now, to some extent, I want to believe he has realized, the hands that handed over, the hands that were behind Uhuru Ruto are not the same hands that are behind Ruto Gashagwa. So what he could actually be doing is he's reaching out through Ngatia to these Mount Kenya financiers to get direct contact with them. Now, that direct contact will help him to isolate Gachagua. Because Gachagua is also open. And he knows very well that Rigathi Gachagua is not so much up to the cause, up to the task, but he's also there to benefit. So if they can call Gachagua behind the scene and they speak the same language, they come from the same villages, they can speak behind Rigathi, coalesce around Rigathi Gachagua, it can be a trouble in future. So what the president, in my opinion, will be doing, and this will be a very good advice, is you'll be reaching out to this team to cut out a relationship with Gachagua. And that will work to their interest. That will be very interesting. When you cut out, of course, you've suppressed what can be a Mount Kenya protest. But secondly, the Mount Kenya financiers have their own interests. And their interest is also here. Recently, I was in Muranga and a good friend of mine was telling me that he knew people who supported Raila to the tune of millions, but now they're still asking Raila, can you support Kalonzo? They're still reaching out to Raila that they don't want Raila to leave the scene, because the reason why they were supporting Raila is because they believed that it was Raila that could shake William Ruto. And now they also know that without Raila, any political, people need to get this right. Any political formation that is coming now cannot tilt the scales against William Ruto if Raila is not the face of it. That's the truth. If that Azimio, and I've always said, yes, Raila can exit the stage. Challenge me. If Raila exits the stage for Azimio and Kalonzo runs the show, himself with Matakarua. And so, without the face of Raila in it, without the input of Raila, as we talk now, and I'm just so specific as we talk now, and William Ruto will carry the day very early in the morning. The person that can tilt the scales is Raila Odinga. And because he realized that there was already a relationship, Ruto will want to scuttle that relationship completely, that will scuttle any political formation with Raila. Now, the other aspect that I also want to see here is William Ruto is interested to make sure that he leaves former President Uhuru Kenyatta an isolated man. And he will want to extract this team from Uhuru Kenyatta, that no one will still listen to the tune of Uhuru. So these people will actually come to his end. Because they still believe that not all of them were satisfied. In fact, I've always believed that while there was a Mount Kenya Billionaires Club with Raila, there was also another cohort of billionaires that were also supporting William Ruto to the other side. So what Ruto will actually do is to reach Ngatia so that he will cut the Mount Kenya Billionaires links with the former President Uhuru Kenyatta, because that relationship would not be. But lastly, to steer government agenda and even support, you need a relationship with them. Recently, I listened to Gachagua asking KEPSA, Kenya Private Sector Alliance, that the government is in need of 2 billion to just supplement the food, the drought management projects in these 28 counties that are affected. Even though government have released the 2 billion later, And I was like, if you don't have a relationship with them, how are they going to present? And of course, there are catastrophic events that things that would happen. Like we had COVID, no one was expecting. If you don't have a good relationship with the corporates, or rather with the big money companies, then you can't. We have a hustler agenda that have to be implemented. It can fully or partially be implemented when you have a very good approach with for the PPE, the public-private sector. Public-private sector will be a very strong backbone for William Ruto's legacy. He will, because in terms of budget, our budget is not that elastic. We are not. It's a bit rigid in terms of what you can do. There is some limit that you can't, and William Ruto will have to leverage more on the public-private partnerships. And now that's how the Billionaires Club comes in. I don't know what you think, guys. That's my bold.